Hello, my name is Jamie J. This is Live with Bottleneck. I'm the CEO and founder and shareholder of Bottleneck Distant Assistance, uh, where we help stop the bottleneck in your business by hiring a dedicated distant assistant. That's not why we're here today. We're here to help you stop the bottleneck in your business and your life. We're going to be talking with Catherine Tindall. Before we jump in, I just have a quick word. We're going to go really quick, play the intro, be back in about 38 seconds. But prior to doing that, if you're here and you want to ask a question to Catherine, you have to go to streamyard.com/Facebook and then say, yes, it's okay for me to ask a question on Facebook. Not really too sure why all that stuff needs to happen, but you definitely need to do that. If you're asking a question and I don't see it here and I don't post it, I will get back to it later and make sure that we do address your question or forward anything off to Catherine. The last thing I want to say is if you're watching this in an evergreen, maybe you're watching this in 3 to 6 months from now. As of today, it is Wednesday, February 23rd at 2 p.m. Central Time. But if you're watching this evergreen and you have a question, we monitor the comments all the time. So we look forward, whether you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, look forward to seeing you here. And thank you so much. We'll go ahead and get to cracking and have some fun. We'll see you in 38 seconds. Oh my goodness, it's Jamie J. This is Live with Bottleneck, where we help stop the bottleneck in your business. I am the CEO and founder of Bottleneck Distant Assistance, and I'm super stoked to welcome Catherine Tindall. She's a CPA entrepreneur partner at Dominion Enterprise Services. And today we're going to be talking about automations you can implement in your business. That's what we'll be talking about today. And why, oh, why is Catherine able to help you stop the bottleneck in your business? Well, let me tell you. Catherine's a CPA specializing in advanced tax reduction who proactively works with clients to reduce what they pay in tax while supporting their greater wealth building and life goals. Her goal for every client is to provide a return on investment in the first year, usually 15 to 100,000 in tax savings. That's amazing. With a focus on automation, Catherine and her team set themselves apart by utilizing technology whenever possible to streamline their advisory services and to offer those services to anyone, no matter where they're located. She is especially passionate about providing tools to support entrepreneurs and small business owners in navigating the changing tax landscape. Whew, I can imagine how challenging that may be, as well as helping them reduce their overall tax burden through proactive strategies and advisory. Most recently, Catherine appeared on Radio Entrepreneurs to share some insight on the COVID tax credits, enabling listeners to take advantage of some of those tax credits that are still available. So without any further ado, please allow me to introduce you to Catherine Tindall. How are you, Catherine?
Good. How are you, Jamie? Thanks for having me. Great intro.
Yep, this is so fantastic. And in full transparency, I dropped the ball. I was supposed to interview Catherine last week, and oh my gosh, it was a bit. It was one of those technology adventures that I had to go
Yeah.
on that day. So thank you for coming back, and I understand it was kind of a blessing in disguise, in disguise because you were able to catch up on a lot of things, right?
Yep. Yeah, we're in the middle of tax season right now, so it was pressured, but glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So thank you right in the middle of the tax season for being here. But I'm excited to get into talking about the topic about today. But before we jump into that, can you tell us a little bit more about who you are and your background and why a certified public accountant?
Yeah, so basically my background is I always knew that I wanted to have my daily work life be actively helping people. And so my parents were both tax practitioners growing up. And of course, I resisted that but they told me take a class. And so now you know how that ended up with my, CPA. I basically have worked through different public accounting firms and started this firm a couple years ago because I really wanted to shift kind of the whole model around how tax work was being done. And then also we have a really strong orientation towards technology and automations. And so I was able to embed a lot of that into this practice, which has just been wonderful.
Well, that's fantastic. So my dad was a CPA.
Mm-hmm.
And it put a lot of pressure on me for math. I hate math to this day. and I got to tell you too, when I first went out and tried to get my company in order,
Mm-hmm.
it was so freaking embarrassing because I hated doing anything like that. I think partly because I was scared knowing that what I was going to see was going to be really ugly.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have a challenge like that, especially when you're kind of a young, earlier on in the business and you don't really have all the systems and processes in place and stuff like that. So for me, it was very scary. And even to this day, my wife, she handles a lot of the books and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're constantly trying to figure out there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way
Yes.
to what we're doing because it takes so much time. She's on the phone with QuickBooks all the flipping time. And she goes, Jamie, there's got to be a better way than doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's a lot of what I've seen in my industry. And it's just my orientation's always been you have to build systems, right? It's find where the pain points are. Where can we automate things? Where can we fix these pain points? And then especially with things like tax credits, my firm does a lot of tax credit work as well. And we've built a lot of automations around that process because I could just see, it's easy to see where things can fall through the cracks or things get missed. And a lot of these kinds of programs, at least like on the IRS side, are very antiquated. And so they have to do a lot of manual processing of things. And so the more we can automate on our end, that really, just helps speed up the process as much as possible.
That's cool. I'm a big fan of automation where it fits and where
Yes.
it's right. There's something to be said for, okay, Kath and I really need to talk to you on the phone about this.
Yes.
So I can maybe present some context or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But heck yeah, the more stuff that we can automate that doesn't really affect customer service or anything like that lessens our load. I'm a huge fan of that. So it's nice to hear that you're on that. So what are some of the things that that business leaders can do maybe to start, automating this process or reducing just, what? I don't even want to say automating the process, reducing the stress of having to deal with these numbers.
Yeah, I would say the biggest place to start, it's kind of the that old formula of eliminate, automate, delegate, right? It's if you can just eliminate certain things off of your plate, that's going to be the most efficient way to deal with that. So very often I see with people, especially when it comes to like basic bookkeeping or like basic accounting functions, instead of you trying to recreate the wheel and learn how to do that yourself, it's often better just to hire a third party to do that kind of work for you. If you can find a bookkeeper that's kind of aligned with the platform that you're on and the kind of the kind of company that you have, if they have a specialty with whatever it is that you're doing, that's probably going to be a better solution for you than trying to come up with some automated system to do it yourself. But if that isn't the right fit for you, then using some kind of automation technique is going to be more helpful, right? So if you can do things like using softwares that are going to do automatic bank feeds, such as QuickBooks Online, or finding softwares that talk to each other so that you're not having to do a lot of things manually. So I know for a lot of people, they use payment processors that automatically import the information over into QuickBooks. And so thinking through kind of how the structure is of what you're doing kind of on the paperwork side of things to help translate that into, an automated system where you're not going to have to manually enter invoices or manually write checks to people can be really helpful. And so I think it's worthwhile to work with somebody that's an accountant to be able to coordinate that information on the front end and help you set up those systems. And usually like an outsourced bookkeeper or an outsourced CFO can be a good person to get you started on those sorts of things just for a regular business owner. But I know for myself, like our practice, our specialty is really more of like the tax planning work. And then also we do a lot of, right now we're doing a lot of COVID credits still. And what I've found just kind of internally as a business owner with what I've found automation to be the most helpful with is really taking a step back and thinking, okay, how is this process a set of steps? How is this already a system of how something needs to happen in order for it to go from where it walks in the door to when it walks out the door? And taking the time to document what that looks like for your own processes in your business, for however it is that you create value, and see, okay, where is most of the value being created in this chain? And, how is this process flowing? Okay, where are the places where I could get a piece of technology to do this instead of a person? Or where are the places where, no, this is redundant, we don't need to do this? And really think through kind of your systems design just on pen and paper, I think is the best place to start.
Man, you are speaking my language. I literally wrote a book, and the subtitle is how today's business leaders are using systems and processes to grow their business the right way. I agree with you 110%. I think it's all systems and processes. That's a perfect oh my gosh, yes. If you need an accountant, go hire Catherine Tindall today. She absolutely knows what's right. So I have a couple of questions. So, I guess we could go into talk a little bit about how do we know if we qualify for the tax credits, or if can we work with you independent of our existing accountant, or like how does that whole thing work?
Yeah. So basically what we did in the firm is I'm a big advocate for where can I have the best and highest use of my ability. And I started to see this opportunity with the COVID tax credits, specifically with the employee retention credit, where I was seeing a lot of other practitioners either not addressing it, or people were getting kind of sidelined and going to their payroll providers for these employee retention credits. And I was seeing a lot of errors. I was seeing a lot of just the ball getting dropped, because the credits in particular, it's a very black and white qualification parameters if you qualify or not. But the calculations themselves are actually very complex. And so I know a lot of tax practitioners who won't even touch them because it's kind of a specialty area and it's a new thing in the tax code just for 2020 and 2021. So what my firm decided to do is we built out and there's no software available on the market to help tax professionals handle these either because it's so new. So what we did is we built a back-end ability to process these process the parts that can be automated in a very automated fashion. And then we do like a quality control review that's done by a CPA to make sure that everything is going through correctly, because there's a lot of nuance in how it's calculated. But we basically do them for other CPA firms because we just found that the other CPA firms were struggling with the capacity because they didn't have the time to build the automations to deal with it, or the time to invest in really getting the full expertise of how to do the credits, because there's a lot of interaction with things like if you got payroll protection loans, if you have, if you own multiple businesses, there's these things called aggregation rules that can kick in. So it's not an easy calculation. And we were finding like a lot of payroll providers and places that were like just doing the credits didn't have really the specialty expertise to be able to execute them correctly. And so we built the automations. And so we work with outside CPAs. Basically, we come in, we just do the credit work. We give your existing tax professional the couple of numbers that they need to adjust what's needed on your income tax side. And a lot of these credits, we're seeing them range anywhere from like $50,000 to, we're working on one right now that looks like it's going to be 2.2 million. So like they can be worth a lot of money. And so it's worth it though, to make sure that they're done correctly, because it's, there's a 3-year IRS audit window where they can come back after these claims. And so it's important to really do the due diligence of doing it correctly. So we built those automations. And then we also have the other pain point that I started to see is that the IRS, even though we get them filed within 2 weeks, it takes the IRS like 12 months to process these now because they have to do everything manually on their end. And so we were seeing a huge bottleneck with, okay, well now the client's waiting for $100,000, $400,000 to come back in the mail to them as a check, can we get some kind of financing relationship in place where we've been vetted, and so we're able to get the clients the claim funding up front? And so we've been able to establish that as well, which has been
Oh, good for
very
you.
helpful. Yeah.
That's very forward thinking. Holy cow. Yeah. Instead of, and that way you get paid back on the back end whenever that comes through from the man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good for you.
Because it's always, you want to look for pain points, right? It's like, where is the client experiencing a pain point, or where is the process have a break or a leak or an inefficiency, and where are those, and how do we fix that? Because it's really, it comes down to systems, right? It's
absolutely,
you know,
absolutely.
So that's what we've done, and we've been doing them for other CPA firms and been having a lot of success. And it's been really validating for me because it's so high impact. Like, a lot of the dollar figures on these are really high. And so it's really helpful to businesses. Instead of just filling out forms, for me, it's like, no, you're actually getting, cash back in the mail, from the IRS.
And this is for W-2 employees, correct?
So this is for business owners who have employees, where they kept the employees during the pandemic. So so it's only available for 2020 and 2021.
What if you've already filed?
So it's right now it's a payroll tax return. So you go back and you amend the payroll taxes, and that's how you get the refund on them. So it's not related to your income tax filing directly.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, fantastic. Okay. Well, shoot. We might have to talk some more.
Yeah. No, and I've just been seeing a lot of, this program did not get the press that the payroll protection program did. It didn't go into the news, and a lot of CPAs have just been so slammed with just the regular tax compliance work, because so much changed for us in the past 2 years, that I've just been seeing a lot of people, like, either not aware of the credit at all, or the other one that I see a lot is they think they're not eligible when they really are, because there's a lot of different ways that companies can be eligible for this. And so my standard line to anybody who's a business owner is, if you had employees during the pandemic, have somebody really assess you, have somebody look at your quarterly profit and loss statements and really do a proper assessment. Because I've had people where they made more money year over year, but they still qualify under certain rules. And it's pretty black and white who qualifies and who doesn't. So that part of the determination is not usually that difficult to see if they're, if you're qualified quarter over quarter.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. So we only have 3, my wife, myself, and someone else. Mm-hmm. But we didn't even take all of our paychecks last year.
Yeah.
We didn't take them. We couldn't afford it. So it was pretty crazy seeing, how things transpired, because you would think, oh my gosh, you've got remote assistants, we've got bookkeepers that people hire from us, right? Like, wow, that would have, on the contrary, we actually lost a ton of business when it first happened, because everybody stopped. And many of our clients are solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, smaller businesses. Mm-hmm. Their business went under, so they quit. Or if it didn't go under, they just said complete freeze on spending. Yeah. And we had to figure out a new way of figuring this whole thing out, just like everybody else did. Mm-hmm. So I kudos to you for figuring something out like this and really drilling down into a niche like that. I think a lot of people can use it. I think one of the biggest challenge people have is, well, I said it before, it was being scared of looking into that. But you nailed it too. I think it's just not knowing. You don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. So what would you say to someone out there that may not know whether or not they qualify, or just don't know? What's a good message we could put out there for people to say, hey, there's some potential opportunity. You should explore it.
Yeah, I would say, the main lines that I tell people is, if you were an employer during 2020 and 2021, you have employees, people who are related parties don't count towards the credit. So if you have, your kids on payroll or you're on payroll, those won't count. But if you employ other people as W-2 employees, so 1099s also don't count. But if you employ people as W-2 employees and you experienced any kind of government shutdown order, capacity restrictions, or you had, I like to call it revenue discrepancies. So if the timing on when you were receiving revenue was more choppy or irregular to what you normally experience, it's worth having somebody do an actual assessment of your situation. Because the credits, like I said, I had one not too long ago where it was 10 employees and they qualified for like 2 quarters, or a few quarters, and they qualified for over $100,000 in tax credits. So they can be really massive. And so it's important to make sure that you're really having somebody look at it, just in case. And, I'm seeing a lot of people where they just didn't think they qualified. And then as far as like who to talk to about these things, if you think you are eligible, my company, we're always happy to do an assessment to give people the eligibility. And then also we give them the rough credit range just as a complimentary thing, because we're able to at least do the napkin calculation of that pretty quickly. But I would urge people, if you're considering pursuing this credit, to work with somebody who's a licensed tax professional. I've been seeing a lot of like employee retention credit shops show up there. And when you look at the tax code, just from like a professional standpoint, it's very complex, and these credits interact with other things that are going on in your tax life, not just this credit claim. And so it's important to work with somebody who understands all the nuances of that, because it is such big dollars at stake, and you don't want the IRS coming back in a couple years saying, hey, you actually weren't eligible for all this. We want some back, and we want our interest and penalties with it. And then on the other side too, you can have people where they're underclaiming, and so you're getting less than you are actually entitled to. So it's important to work with somebody who really knows their stuff and has experience in the tax world. Yeah,
I totally agree. But even if it's not that much, but you have a credit coming back, why not? Why not explore that opportunity, right?
Yeah, no, and it's really, I like to position it to people as this is the government reimbursing you for the hardship that happened during the pandemic. And I think there's a lot of people who really suffered, and they did get the benefit of things like the PPP program, but it's when you've been, shut down for months and months on end, and you're still paying people to be on payroll, or, your revenue's been compromised and you're still paying people to be on payroll. It's really kind of the government saying, sorry guys, like we'll get you back. And also, to help speed the economy back up, because we're still seeing lags in certain areas, with people still out of work, or just things are still disrupted. So I think that's part of the impetus behind this program as well.
I love it. I love it. Well, we are coming up towards the end of our time together, and I want to be respectful of your time. I can't thank you enough for stopping by and sharing this with us. It's something to be thinking about at the very least. So thanks for putting that at the forefront of our thought processes here. How do people get in touch with you if they want to learn more?
Yeah, so I say the easiest way to get in touch with us is visit our website. We have a contact page right there where you can fill out some information. You'll also, I think in the show notes will be my email address. So feel welcome to reach out to me directly if this is something that you're interested in pursuing. And like I said, we have a lot of partnerships with other CPA firms doing this for them. So we have a very streamlined process for your existing tax professional for us to just come in, get the credits done, get everything filed. It's less work for your CPA, which they're probably grateful for right now. It's tax season. And then, you get in the queue to get your credit claim, or we can help with financing if that's something that's, needed for you as well. So it's a pretty painless process.
And how much is it to get something like this service done?
So usually for us, it really depends on the kind of the complexity of what's going on with the claim. Yeah. So it does vary. And we don't charge a percent, but we do basically a flat fee. But that's all communicated up front just before we do any work. I don't do any hourly billing. It's all, we'll let you know what the credit range is, and then, what our fee would be. And, we just take it from there. But for the most part, most shops that are doing these are charging anywhere from 10 to 15 to 25%. So that's kind of the range that the industry is doing for these. So that's what I would probably put out there is, kind of what people should expect if they're pursuing this from other providers. But at least on the fee side, we tend to be pretty competitive with, other people doing these.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, thank you again. Is there anything you'd like to say before we wrap?
No, I think we pretty much, I always like talking tax and getting to talk automation. So it was a fun time to be here.
Oh, Catherine, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I learned a couple things. I hope this helps other people out. Do you have just a moment to hang on and I can wrap us up here?
Yeah, sounds great.
Thank you. Thank you. Up there, maybe. How's that? There we go. Want to say thank you to Catherine Tindall for joining us today. Um, so let me be the first person to tell you, if you're afraid of approaching a bookkeeper, a CPA, an accountant for any reason, don't be. Or at least go ahead and do it anyways. You can still be afraid, but do it. I know things may be ugly right now, but I promise you, there is light at the end of the tunnel. And it's people like Catherine that can help you kind of figure out different ways, unique strategies to kind of to help you out and get you going and get you caught up there and take advantage of certain opportunities that maybe you didn't even know existed out there. I will tell you from a firsthand experience, try different things. You never know what's going to be beneficial to you. And think of this, not only beneficial to you, but if your company can be in a better position, you can be beneficial to your team members. You can be more beneficial and more of service to your clients. So you're doing this to build yourself a better company in order to support others. It's I call it the ripple effect, right? So highly recommend learning a little bit more about this if you can. You can visit, learn more about Catherine Tindall. We talked about automations you can implement in your business today. And I think what's really important about that, again, is you can go check out the website. That's dominiones.com. If you want to, you can send Catherine an email. It's ctindall, Tindall, at dominions, dominions.com, Dominion ES. I think that's right. I'm going to say Dominion ES. She's also on LinkedIn, and she is a CPA entrepreneur and partner at Dominion Enterprise Services. There we go. If you liked this episode, learn how you can break through the bottleneck in your business today by going to bottleneck.online/BTV, where you can see other videos and learn more about how you can stop the bottleneck in your business. And then also wanted to pop in one more on the brand here. Just wrote my first book, Quit Repeating Yourself, how today's leaders are using systems and processes to grow their business the right way. And as you heard Catherine, she's a big fan of business as well, or systems and processes as well. So super excited for that. If you missed earlier, I talked to Elaine Pofeld. She's absolutely amazing. We talked about the characteristics of tiny businesses that make 7 figures. I was honored to be in her earlier book. She is a ghostwriter, and she also writes for Inc. and Forbes, and wonderful conversation we had. Coming soon to your earbuds, teaching team building and communication through video games. That's Scott Novus, CEO and founder of Bravos Esports. That's coming up Wednesday, March 2nd, 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern. And can't wait for that conversation. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Once again, I want to say a big shout out and thank you to Catherine Tindall. And we talked about automations you can implement today in your business. So thanks again for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Hope you all have a wonderful day. And just in case, remember, create your own ripple. It's somewhere up there. Have a great one. We'll talk to you soon. And yeah, bye for now.